All right, let's talk about something that trips a lot of people up on the NSIM exams, taxation. It can get pretty complicated, right? Well, today we're going to tackle a really important part of it, how your income from debt products, things like bonds and mutual funds, actually gets taxed. Let's dive right in and make this super clear. So here's the plan. We're going to start with the absolute basics, the two kinds of income you can get. Then we'll walk through corporate bonds, GSACs, and mutual funds. We'll even hit on a couple of special cases. And then at the end, I've got a summary chart that's going to pull it all together for you. Let's get started. Okay, first things first. Before we get into the weeds, you've got to understand this one core idea. Every single penny you make from a debt investment fits into one of two buckets. Seriously, getting this right is the key to unlocking everything else we're about to talk about. So what are these two buckets? Well, on one side, you've got your interest income. Think of this as the steady, regular payment you get for loaning out your money. It's like the company's saying, thanks for the loan. Then, on the other side, there's capital gains. This is the profit you make when you actually sell the bond or fund. It's all about buying low and selling high. Totally different sources of income. And yep, they're taxed differently too. All right, let's put that idea to work. We'll start with something you see all the time, corporate bonds. Now, when it comes to taxes on these, there is one single question that changes everything. Is the bond listed on an exchange or is it unlisted? That one detail is absolutely crucial. Okay, I know, tables can look like a lot. But don't worry, for listed bonds, it really just comes down to a magic number, 12 months. That's it. If you hold onto that bond for more than a year, your profit is considered a long-term capital gain. And why does that matter? Well, that's the big prize. You get a sweet, discounted tax rate of just 12.5%. Hold it for less than a year, though, and that gain gets added to your regular income and taxed at your normal, much higher slab rate. Let's make this real with a quick example. So we've got Mr. A. He buys some listed bonds back in 2016. He holds on to them, and then in 2024, that's 8 years later, he sells them and makes a pretty good profit. So first question, is it long-term or short-term? Well, he held it way longer than 12 months, so it's definitely a long-term capital gain. So how much did he actually make? The math here is super straightforward. You just take the total amount he sold the bonds for and subtract what he originally paid for them. The difference, his profit, is his long-term capital gain. And in this case, it's a very nice 3,20,000 rupees. And here's the best part, the whole point of this. That 3,20,000 isn't taxed at his regular income rate. No way. It gets that special, flat, concessional rate of just 12.5%. That right there is the huge advantage of holding listed debt for the long term. Okay, but what about the flip side? Unlisted bonds. This is a rule you have got to burn into your brain for the exam. For unlisted bonds, the holding period, it just doesn't matter. I mean, at all. 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, it makes no difference. Any profit you make is always considered a short-term capital gain, and it's taxed at your normal income slab rate. There's no special discount here. None. Moving on, let's talk about what many consider the safest investment of all. Government securities, or GSACs. Now, you'd think, hey, it's the government, the rules must be simple and straightforward. Well, you'd be wrong. There's a really interesting twist you need to know about. So you've got a few different flavors of GSECs, things like CMBs, T-bills, and the longer-term dated GSECs. For the most part, their tax treatment feels a lot like listed corporate bonds. But, and this is a huge but, there's one massive game-changing exception. Check out this example. A bank invests in some GSECs in 2015. They hold on to them for 10 full years, all the way to 2025, and then they sell. Now, based on everything we've said so far, you're thinking, 10 years? That's gotta be a long-term capital gain easy, right? And here's that twist I was talking about. Look at the calculation. Even after a decade, the gain is treated as short-term. The rule for GSECs is just different. It's absolute. Any capital gain on the transfer of a GSEC is always treated as short-term. It doesn't matter if you hold it for 2 years or 20. This is a huge one, a rule that trips up so many people. All right, let's shift gears and talk about something everybody invests in, mutual funds. Now, pay close attention here because the tax rules have actually changed recently. What really matters now is what the fund is made of and, crucially, when you bought into it. First up, we have to talk about this new kid on the block, the Specified Mutual Fund, or SMF. The rule is actually pretty simple. If the fund invests more than 65% in debt, and if you bought your units after April 1st, 2023, then any capital gain is automatically, 100% of the time, taxed as a short-term gain. End of story. The holding period just doesn't come into play. But what about everything else? Funds that aren't SMFs, or maybe units you bought before that April 2023 deadline. Well, for those, the old rules are still in play. And for these unlisted debt fund units, the key number is 24 months. If you hold them for more than 2 years, you can still get that sweet long-term capital gains treatment. So let's look at an example for this category. An investor had a debt fund for more than 8 years. Since that's way over the 24-month line, and we're assuming it's not an SMF, their profit, in this case 1,50,000 rupees, qualifies as a long-term capital gain. And what's the reward for that long holding period? You probably guessed it. It's that same fantastic concessional tax rate of 12.5% on the gain. And this is a really important distinction to remember between the new SMFs, which are always short-term, and these other debt funds. Okay, we're in the home stretch now. Let's just quickly touch on 2 special cases you'll definitely want to know about: the rules for non-resident Indians, or NRIs, and for a product called market-linked debentures, or MLDs. So here's what you need to know, boiled down. For NRIs, the good news is that they can often get access to those same great concessional rates, like the 12.5% for long-term gains. And don't forget, double taxation avoidance agreements can sometimes lower the rates even more. As for MLDs, the rule got a recent update, and it's basically the same as for SMFs now. If it's transferred after April 1st, 2023, the gain is always short-term. Simple as that. Phew, okay, I know that was a lot. We went through a bunch of different products, different holding periods, different rules. So to pull this all together and make it easy to remember, we've put everything into one big summary chart. Seriously, this is your new best friend for studying. Just take a look at how this breaks it all down. You can see right here for each product what the holding period is to get that long-term benefit. See, for listed bonds, it's 12 months. But jump down to other mutual funds, and it's 24 months. And then maybe most importantly, look at this group right here. Unlisted bonds, GSECs, MLDs, and the new SMFs. For them, the long-term holding period just doesn't apply. Their gains are always going to be taxed at your regular slab rate. This one chart really tells the whole story. When you really get down to it, it's all about this one thing: knowing the holding periods and knowing which type of security you're dealing with. If you can nail those 2 things, you've pretty much mastered the taxation of debt. It really is all in those little details. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Now that you know all these rules, how does it actually change how you'd pick an investment? For instance, knowing that a GSEC's gain will always be taxed at your highest rate. Does that suddenly make a listed corporate bond that you plan to hold for a few years look a whole lot more attractive? It's definitely something to think about, right?